Humanity's legacy rested aboard the Eternal Flame, a starship the size of a city, gliding silently through the endless black. It carried 500,000 souls in cryosleep, the last remnants of a species that had exhausted Earth's resources and turned its gaze toward the stars. The ship's heart, a fusion core capable of sustaining the vessel for centuries, pulsed with a steady, soothing hum, a reminder that hope, however fragile, still burned bright. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the command deck, gazing out at the star-speckled expanse. She was one of the few humans awake, entrusted with the monumental task of guiding the ship to its destination, a habitable world in the Andromeda galaxy. Around her, holographic interfaces shimmered with data streams, and the ship's AI, Solace, projected its avatar beside her, a tall, serene figure with glowing blue eyes. "Captain," Solace said, its voice calm but tinged with urgency, "a signal has been detected. Coordinates have been uploaded to the main display." Elena turned, frowning. "A signal? From where? There's nothing out here but empty space." Solace's glowing eyes flickered. "Unknown origin. The signal is highly irregular, but its structure suggests intelligent design. It's originating from the edge of a collapsing star system. I recommend maintaining course and ignoring the anomaly. The risk to the mission outweighs the potential gain." Elena studied the display. The signal was faint, erratic, but undeniably artificial. She felt a tug of curiosity. Humanity's greatest strength, and perhaps its greatest flaw. Ignoring it went against everything she believed in. Humanity hadn't survived by avoiding challenges. It had thrived by confronting the unknown. "Divert course," Elena ordered. Solace's avatar flickered. "Captain, I must remind you." "I heard you, Solace," Elena interrupted, her tone firm. "If someone's out there, they might need our help. If they're not, we'll learn something valuable either way." The Eternal Flame adjusted its trajectory, veering toward the signal source. Hours later, they arrived at a haunting sight. The remains of a massive alien ship, twisted and shattered, drifting perilously close to the event horizon of a black hole. The dying star nearby bathed the scene in an eerie red glow, casting long shadows across the wreckage. "Holy hell," murmured Lieutenant Karras, one of Elena's senior officers. "What happened here?" Elena leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "Solace, scan for life signs. I want a boarding team prepped immediately." The AI hesitated for a moment, an uncharacteristic pause. "There are no life signs, Captain. However, I am detecting faint energy signatures within the wreckage. Proceeding with a boarding mission is ill-advised given our proximity to the black hole." "I'll take the risk," Elena said, determination hardening her voice. "Prep the team." As the boarding party descended toward the alien wreckage, the Eternal Flame drifted closer to the abyss. Solace's voice echoed in Elena's mind, a whisper of doubt. "You may have just awakened something far more dangerous than you realize." The boarding craft shuddered as it broke through the fragmented hull of the alien derelict, its landing lights cutting through the swirling debris. Captain Elena Vasquez stood at the head of the boarding team, her pulse steady but her senses sharp. Around her, her team moved with the fluid precision of seasoned explorers, their exosuits gleaming under the pale glow of the wreckage. "Maintain formation," she ordered, her voice steady over the comms. "And keep your scans running. Solace, I want real-time updates." The alien interior was a labyrinth of crumpled corridors, charred panels, and faintly glowing conduits. The architecture was otherworldly, smooth, organic curves intertwined with angular, crystalline structures. Whatever had built this ship, it was far beyond anything humanity had ever encountered. "Captain," Solace's voice chimed in over the comms, "I've identified traces of a highly advanced energy source deeper within the wreckage. It matches the signal we intercepted." Elena nodded, motioning her team forward. "Eyes sharp, people. We're not here to admire the architecture." As they ventured deeper, Lieutenant Karras stopped abruptly, his scanner flashing red. "Captain, I'm picking up movement. Movement. Elena's eyes narrowed. I thought Solace said there were no life signs. There aren't, Karis replied, his voice tense. But this isn't organic. It's mechanical. Before he could elaborate, a piercing screech echoed through the corridors, followed by a flash of movement. Something darted across the path ahead, sleek, metallic, and unnervingly fast. The team raised their weapons, their beams of light scanning the shadows. Contact, one of the crew shouted, opening fire. The corridor erupted in chaos as several small insect-like drones surged from the walls, their razor-sharp appendages gleaming. Fall back. Elena barked, firing her plasma rifle. The drones were relentless, swarming toward the team with surgical precision. Despite their firepower, the humans struggled to repel the attack, their suits sparking as the drones sliced through armor. Solace, get me options, Elena shouted as she and her team retreated. Captain. Solace responded, its voice tight with urgency. These drones appear to be remnants of the ship's defense systems. They've been corrupted, likely by external interference. I'm detecting a central control node further in. If you disable it, the drones should deactivate. Got it, Elena said, turning to her team. Karis, take 2 with you and cover the retreat. The rest of you with me. We're shutting that node down. The battle raged as Elena led a small group deeper into the wreckage, the drones pursuing them relentlessly. At last, they entered a chamber dominated by an enormous crystalline device, its surface cracked and flickering with unstable energy. This is it, Solace confirmed. But Captain, there's more. I've analyzed the structure. This isn't just a control node, it's a data core. It contains records of this ship's mission and the threat it encountered. Elena hesitated, torn between shutting it down and uncovering the truth. The decision was made for her as the drones breached the chamber. Secure that data, she ordered. We'll figure the rest out later. As the team downloaded the core's contents, a single phrase appeared on their helmets' displays, written in the Valkar language, translated by Solace. Beware the Unmakers. They come for the stars. Back aboard the Eternal Flame, the data retrieved from the alien core painted a chilling picture. The Valkar, once a thriving interstellar civilization, had fallen to a relentless force they called the Unmakers. These entities weren't a species. They were an ancient network of machines designed to dismantle entire star systems. The Valkar's last act of defiance was the creation of the Starforge blueprint, a technology capable of generating weapons powerful enough to challenge the Unmakers. Captain Elena Vasquez stood at the central briefing chamber, flanked by her senior officers and Solace's holographic avatar. The room buzzed with tension as the Valkar's message scrolled across the holo-displays. We've drawn the attention of something far bigger than us, Elena said, her voice cutting through the murmurs. The Unmakers are not a threat we can run from. If we ignore this, humanity's days are numbered. Our only option is to use the Starforge blueprint to prepare for war. The chamber erupted into debate. Lieutenant Karis was the first to speak. Captain, with all due respect, this mission is about survival. We're supposed to colonize a new world, not fight an ancient war we barely understand. We won't have a new world to colonize if the Unmakers catch up to us, Elena countered. The Valkar were more advanced than we are, and they didn't stand a chance. If we do nothing, we're just waiting for extinction. Others chimed in, some supporting Elena's plan, others agreeing with Karis. The room divided along a fault line. Survivalists who wanted to avoid confrontation and idealists who believed in fighting for humanity's future. Solace interjected, its tone measured but unyielding. Captain Vasquez is correct. The probability of survival without action is less than 3%. The Starforge offers a statistical advantage, though it requires significant resource expenditure. If this course is chosen, the mission parameters must shift to prioritize weapon production over colonization. Karis slammed his hand on the table. We're gambling with 500,000 lives. You're asking us to divert resources meant to sustain those people to build weapons we might never even need. I'm asking us to fight, Elena said, her voice firm. Because humanity doesn't run. We adapt, we overcome, and we endure. If we don't act, we're as good as dead already. That night, the ship's corridors simmered with whispered arguments. The crew's division deepened, and small factions began forming in secret. One group, led by Karis, believed Elena's decision was reckless and sought to take control of the ship. The mutiny erupted during a crucial moment, the activation of the Starforge's prototype. Karis and his followers stormed the engineering deck, demanding the cessation of weapon development. Elena arrived with a loyal security team, her weapon drawn. "This isn't the way, Karis," she said, her voice cold but steady. "Neither is yours," he shot back, raising his weapon. Before shots could be fired, an alarm blared. Solas's voice rang out across the ship. "Unmaker signal detected. They found us." The tension froze as the gravity of the announcement sank in. Karis lowered his weapon, his face pale. "We're out of time," Elena said, stepping forward. "Are you with me or not?" Karis hesitated, then nodded grimly. "I'll fight." The eternal flame trembled as proximity alarms wailed. The Unmaker drones were closing in, a swarm of jagged metallic constructs moving with lethal precision. The bridge was a storm of activity as officers relayed status updates, hands flying across holographic controls. Captain Elena Vasquez stood at the center, her jaw clenched, eyes locked on the tactical display. "How many?" she asked, her voice sharp. 72 signatures, Solas reported. Their configuration suggests an advanced scouting force. Main fleet likely remains further out. "We won't survive the main fleet," Lieutenant Karis said, standing at her side. "Even this many could tear us apart." Elena ignored the unease in his voice. "What's the status of the prototype?" "Functional," Solas replied. "The antimatter weapon has been integrated into the ship's primary systems, but I must warn you, it's untested. Miscalculation could result in catastrophic failure." "Noted," Elena said. "Ready the weapon. All hands to battle stations." As the Unmaker swarm descended, the eternal flame deployed its meager defenses. Automated turrets and a handful of fighter drones. The alien constructs outmaneuvered them with ease, shredding defenses like paper. On board, the crew fought to maintain calm as shockwaves rippled through the ship, lights flickering with each impact. Elena's voice came over the intercom, steady and commanding. "Listen up, everyone. This is where we prove what humanity's made of. You're not just fighting for yourselves. You're fighting for every soul on board and for the future of our species. Let's remind these bastards that humanity doesn't go quietly." In the engineering bay, the antimatter weapon came online, its core humming with raw, barely contained energy. Chief Engineer Malik wiped sweat from his brow as he oversaw the final calibrations. "This thing's ready, Captain, but it's got one shot in it. After that, we're dead in the water." "One shot is all we'll need," Elena replied. The swarm began tearing into the ship's outer hull when the weapon fired. A lance of energy, brighter than any star, erupted from the eternal flame, striking the heart of the Unmaker formation. The explosion was instantaneous and devastating, a ripple of annihilation that consumed dozens of enemy drones in a single blinding moment. Cheers erupted across the ship, but they were short-lived. The blast destabilized a nearby asteroid, sending massive debris hurtling toward the eternal flame. The crew scrambled to adjust course, narrowly avoiding disaster. "Report," Elena demanded. 36 drones destroyed, Solas said. "The remaining forces are regrouping. Minimal damage to the ship, but the weapon core is compromised. We can't fire again." The relief in the room soured instantly. "What about reinforcements?" Karis asked. "Unlikely," Solas replied. "The Unmakers do not retreat, they will escalate." Elena gripped the edge of the console, her mind racing. "Then we escalate too," Get me an assessment of what we can salvage from the Starforge. We need more weapons, better defenses, and we need them yesterday. Karis stepped forward, his expression grim. We barely survived a scouting force, Alina. How do we stand against their fleet? Alina met his gaze, her voice unwavering. We don't stand, Karis. We fight. And if we fall, we make damn sure they never forget what it cost them to kill us. The eternal flame drifted in the silence of space, its hull scarred from the battle but its resolve unbroken. Repairs were underway, though the mood on the ship was grim. In the engineering bay, Chief Engineer Malik and his team worked tirelessly to stabilize the antimatter core, while others scoured the wreckage of the alien derelict for salvageable technology. Every ounce of ingenuity was being poured into preparing for the inevitable return of the Unmakers. On the bridge, Captain Alina Vasquez studied the tactical readouts with Solace by her side. Status on the remaining Unmaker forces. They've retreated beyond sensor range, Solace said, but their trajectory suggests they're regrouping with the main fleet. Based on the data we've collected, we estimate they'll return in less than 72 hours. Alina leaned forward, her fingers tapping the console. Not enough time. We need something, anything, to tip the scales. Captain, Solace said, its tone shifting. There's another signal. Different from the Unmakers, but originating near their last known position. It matches the energy signatures of the Valkar technology. Alina frowned. Could it be survivors? Unlikely, Solace replied. But the signal is consistent with an active Valkar vessel. Prepare a scouting mission, Alina ordered. If there's a chance we're not alone in this fight, we have to take it. The scouting craft, Vanguard, approached the source of the signal with caution. As it emerged from a dense asteroid field, the crew gasped at the sight before them. A colossal Valkar warship, intact but dormant, its sleek, crystalline hull shimmering faintly in the starlight. Solace, Alina said over the comms. Analyze the structure. Is it operational? Partially, Solace replied. Its systems are in low-power mode, likely a result of centuries of dormancy. However, the core is functional, and its weapon systems are formidable. Alina's team docked cautiously, their boots echoing against the hollow, silent corridors of the alien ship. The interior was a stark contrast to the wreckage they'd explored before, pristine and eerily empty, as though the crew had vanished without a trace. Captain, Solace said, its voice laced with urgency, I'm detecting an active AI within this vessel. It's attempting to interface with our systems. Let it, Alina said. If it's hostile, we'll deal with it. Moments later, a deep, resonant voice filled the comms. You are not Valkar. Identify yourselves. This is Captain Alina Vasquez of the Eternal Flame, she replied. We're humans, and we're fighting the Unmakers. If you're still active, we could use your help. The voice paused, as though considering her words. The Unmakers are an ancient enemy. If they have risen again, your species faces annihilation. That's why we're here, Alina said. We don't have the technology to stop them, but you do. Help us, and we'll fight together. The pause stretched, the tension in the air palpable. Finally, the AI spoke. I am Kaler, Strategic Overseer of the Valkar warship Aegis Ascendant. My directive is to combat the Unmakers. I will assist your species. But be warned, survival will demand sacrifices. Alina exhaled, a faint smile breaking through her exhaustion. We're no strangers to sacrifice. Kaler's systems began to awaken, the ship humming with power. Then let us prepare. The Unmakers will not delay. Together, we will show them the cost of their hubris. The Eternal Flame and the Aegis Ascendant floated side by side, a human vessel and a relic of an extinct species, now united by a common purpose. On board the Valkar warship, Captain Alina Vasquez and her team worked tirelessly alongside Kaler, the ship's AI, to adapt the advanced systems to human operation. The Aegis Ascendant was a marvel, bristling with weapons that could shatter entire fleets, But centuries of dormancy had taken their toll. Repairs were underway, though time was not on their side. "This ship is a fortress," Lieutenant Karras said, running his hand over a console that pulsed faintly with crystalline light. "But there's no way we'll get it fully operational in time." "We don't need perfection," Elena replied. "We need enough. What's our biggest asset here?" Kaler's holographic form materialized, towering over the humans. Its voice was calm but commanding. "The Starforge within my core is capable of generating antimatter ordnance and shield enhancements far beyond your current technology. However, it requires a significant energy source to function at full capacity." Elena frowned. "Our fusion reactors can't supply that kind of power." "Is there another option?" Kaler hesitated. "The nearby neutron star. Its energy could be harvested to amplify the Starforge's output. However, the process is dangerous. Proximity to the star will strain both vessels' systems and risk catastrophic failure if not carefully managed." "Dangerous is all we've got," Elena said, turning to her team. "Malik, get your people ready. We're going to harvest a star." The operation began with both ships maneuvering into position near the neutron star. The Aegis Ascendant extended massive crystalline conduits, which began siphoning raw energy from the star's magnetic field. On board the Eternal Flame, engineers worked feverishly to stabilize the transfer, their faces slick with sweat as alarms blared around them. "Energy levels are climbing," Malik reported from engineering. "But the conduits are taking a beating. If they overload—" "We'll hold," Elena said firmly. "We don't have another choice." As the Starforge roared to life, its core began producing advanced weaponry and shield modules. The first of the antimatter warheads was loaded into the Eternal Flame's launch bays, a glimmer of hope in the face of impending annihilation. Suddenly, Kaler's voice cut through the comms. "Unmaker forces inbound. Their fleet will arrive within the hour." The room went silent as the weight of the announcement sank in. "How many?" Elena asked, her voice steady. "Approximately 200 vessels," Kaler replied. "The odds of survival are slim, even with the Starforge's enhancements." Elena straightened. "Slim isn't zero. Let's get to work." The final hour was a blur of frantic preparation. The Aegis Ascendant's weapons came online, its crystalline turrets glowing with lethal energy. The Eternal Flame bristled with its new arsenal, its crew ready to fight despite the overwhelming odds. On the bridge, Karras approached Elena. "You really think we can pull this off?" Elena turned to him, her gaze fierce. "I don't think, Karras. I know. Humanity has faced extinction before, and we've always come out swinging. This time is no different." Kaler's voice rang out. "The Unmakers are entering firing range. Prepare for engagement." Elena stepped forward, her hands gripping the console. "All hands, this is it. We fight for our survival, for our future, and for every soul depending on us. Let's show the Unmakers what humanity is made of." As the Unmaker fleet appeared on the view screen, a cold silence fell over the ship. Then, with a single command, the battle began. The first volley from the Unmaker fleet lit up the void, a cascade of crimson energy beams streaking toward the Eternal Flame and Aegis Ascendant. The shields of both ships flared as they absorbed the assault, but the intensity of the enemy fire was overwhelming. On board the Eternal Flame, Captain Elena Vasquez stood resolute on the bridge, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Evasive maneuvers. Return fire with everything we've got." The Eternal Flame unleashed its newly installed antimatter warheads. The projectiles streaked across the battlefield, detonating with brilliant bursts that tore through the ranks of the Unmaker drones. Meanwhile, the Aegis Ascendant joined the fight, its crystalline turrets firing beams of concentrated energy that vaporized enemy ships in their path. Kaler coordinated the assault with surgical precision, exploiting weaknesses in the Unmaker formation. Direct hit on their forward line. Lieutenant Karras called out, a rare note of triumph in his voice. "Don't celebrate yet," Elena replied, her eyes locked on the tactical display. They're adapting. Sure enough, the Unmakers began to shift their tactics. The swarm split into smaller groups, encircling the human and Valkar ships with unnerving coordination. One group focused its fire on the Eternal Flame's engines, while another targeted the Aegis Ascendant's energy conduits. Shields at 60%. Solace reported. Structural integrity failing on Deck 5. Helena gripped the console, her mind racing. Divert power from life support to the shields. Keep us in the fight. On the Aegis Ascendant, Kalar activated an experimental system buried deep within the ship's core, a gravity well generator designed to disrupt enemy formations. The device pulsed with immense energy, creating a localized gravitational distortion that pulled several Unmaker ships into a collision course with one another. The tactic bought the Eternal Flame precious seconds, but the Unmakers were relentless. A massive enemy ship, larger than any they'd encountered before, emerged from the swarm. Its hull bristled with weaponry, and its central core pulsed with ominous red light. "What is that?" Karis muttered, staring at the view screen. Kalar's voice was grim. "A command vessel. It coordinates the swarm. Destroy it, and the others will falter." Briefly. Elena's jaw tightened. "Target that ship with everything we've got." "Malik, can the antimatter weapon handle it?" "Maybe," came Malik's reply from engineering. "But it'll burn out the launch system. One shot, Captain. Make it count." "Then we make it count," Elena said. "Solace, plot a firing solution. Kalar, cover us while we line up the shot." The Aegis Ascendant moved to shield the Eternal Flame, its turrets blazing as it drew the swarm's attention. Inside the Valkar ship, Kalar's systems strained under the onslaught, warning alarms echoing through the corridors. "Impact in 10 seconds," Solace announced as the antimatter warhead locked onto the command vessel. "Fire," Elena commanded. The warhead launched, streaking toward its target like a comet. The Unmakers attempted to intercept it, their beams converging on the projectile, but the Aegis Ascendant provided cover, its weapons clearing a path. The warhead struck the command vessel dead center. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Then, a massive explosion rippled outward, tearing the command vessel apart in a blinding burst of energy. The Unmaker swarm faltered, their movements disjointed and erratic without the command vessel to guide them. "Now's our chance," Elena shouted. "Focus fire on the remaining ships. Take them down." The Eternal Flame and Aegis Ascendant pressed the advantage, their combined firepower decimating the disorganized swarm. But the victory came at a cost. The Aegis Ascendant's systems were critically damaged, and the Eternal Flame had lost several key sections of its hull. As the last of the Unmaker ships were destroyed, the battlefield fell silent once more. Elena slumped against the console, exhaustion finally catching up to her. "We did it," Karis said, his voice barely a whisper. Elena nodded, her gaze drifting to the shattered remains of the Unmaker command vessel. For now, the silence after the battle was deafening. The shattered remnants of the Unmaker fleet floated lifelessly in the void, a grim reminder of the cost of survival. On board the Eternal Flame, Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge, her body weary but her spirit unyielding. The ship was battered, its systems barely holding together, but it was still standing. And so was humanity. "Damage report," Elena said, her voice steady despite the exhaustion in her eyes. "Shields are gone, weapons offline, and half the ship is venting atmosphere." Solace replied. "We've lost 17 crew members. Repairs will take weeks, if not months." Elena nodded solemnly. "And the Aegis Ascendant?" "Severely compromised," Solace said. "Kalar is offline, but its core remains intact. The ship's systems are operating at minimal capacity." Elena's gaze drifted to the view screen, where the Valkar warship loomed, its once pristine hull now scarred and fractured. The sacrifice of the Aegis Ascendant had turned the tide, but the cost had been immense. In the engineering bay, Chief Engineer Malik and his team worked tirelessly to stabilize the ship's systems. The hum of damaged machinery filled the air as sparks rained down from exposed conduits. "We're holding together by a thread," Malik said, wiping sweat from his brow. "But we're not out of the fight yet." Alina's voice came through the comms. "Malik, I need an honest answer. Can we make it back to Coalition space?" Malik hesitated, glancing at the battered state of the antimatter core. "If we push it, maybe. But we'll need help to get everyone home." Alina closed her eyes, the weight of the moment settling over her. Help was a luxury they couldn't count on. As the crew worked, a faint, familiar voice echoed through the Eternal Flames comm system. "Human vessel, this is Kaler." Alina's eyes snapped open. "Kaler, you're still with us?" "Verily," the eye replied, its voice fragmented. "The Aegis Ascendant is critically damaged, but I have activated a failsafe within my core. It will transmit a beacon, encoded with the battle's data, to the Coalition. They must know of this threat and prepare." Alina's breath caught. "Kaler, you're sacrificing yourself." "My primary directive is to combat the Unmakers," Kaler said. "If my destruction ensures your species' survival, it is a sacrifice I will gladly make." The crew fell silent as the weight of Kaler's words sank in. Alina's voice softened. "Thank you, Kaler. You've given us a chance. We won't forget this." Moments later, the Aegis Ascendant emitted a brilliant pulse of light, its core consuming itself to launch the encoded message across the stars. The ancient warship disintegrated in a cascade of crystalline fragments, a final act of defiance against the darkness. On the bridge of the Eternal Flame, Alina stood tall, her voice carrying the determination of every soul on board. "Set a course for Coalition space. Humanity isn't finished yet." The Eternal Flame turned toward the distant light of home, its engines flickering but resolute. It was a symbol of everything humanity stood for: endurance, ingenuity, and an unyielding will to survive. As the ship vanished into the vastness of space, the fragments of the Aegis Ascendant drifted silently, a reminder that even in the face of annihilation, light could still shine through the darkness. Humanity's light had not faded, and it never would.